Hello everybody and welcome back to another Taiji development log update video. I'm Matthew Van Deventer and Taiji is a open world adventure puzzle solving game that takes a lot of inspiration from The Witness. If that type of thing sounds interesting to you, there is a link in the description below to find out more. I definitely did not want to take this long for this video to come out. In fact, I wrote the initial draft of the script almost 6 months ago already, when I just happened to be unable to sleep, and I guess I was feeling froggy. I've just been so busy with my day job through the week and I didn't really feel like working weekends after we finished the soundtrack that I just haven't done it. But in any case, I'm off this Friday, so I'm recording this video, so this is the best you're gonna get. It's muggy outside and rainy, so I just decided I would do the cheap, let's record it with the webcam so at least something gets out there after 6 months. But anyway, I apologize for the delay, but it is what it is. So the game's out there finally. It's done, and I'm sure people want to know how it did roughly and how do I feel about everything. Well, I'm definitely still not rich, but the game did sell a lot better than I thought it would. There's sort of a rule of thumb, I guess, in terms of games marketing or whatever, that around 10% of your Steam wish lists are what you can expect to translate into your day one sales. I actually don't have the day one sales numbers on me right now, but after 6 months, well, actually, let me preface it and say the wish lists for the game were around 5,000 pre-launch. They went up a little bit, I think, in the days right before launch, when suddenly the game got noticed right when it was launching. But in any case, the rule of thumb would suggest that means the game would sell 500 copies on day one. So after 6 months, the game has sold 17,000 copies, which is more than 5 times what the initial wish lists were, and is 30 times what the rough 10% estimate is. So I guess my takeaway from all that could be that the 10% rule for your wish lists is just BS and doesn't mean anything. But I think my takeaway is that it does generally mean something, unless your game is the exception for some reason. And even if it is the exception, you're not going to know that until after release anyway, so you might as well just treat it as though it is a rule. I do think it's easy after the fact to kind of see the success of Taiji as predetermined. Of course, it's it's a game that's like The Witness in a market that's sort of starving for that thing. And it came out when people still wanted that type of thing, and there wasn't very much of it. But the reality is that I don't know what elements that came together just so caused the game to do as well as it did. Tyler of Aliens Rock had called the game his most anticipated game of all time in a coming back from hiatus video shortly before it came out, so it's hard to say if the game would have been as known if that didn't happen. It's hard to say if it would have sold well if somehow he'd had a bad time with the game. A lot of people have a more rough first couple hours than he did, so that was just sort of luck. Would the game have done well if it had come out in April without the extra time spent polishing the soundtrack? Would the game have done as well if it had been delayed a little bit further? Who knows? In any case, I consider myself lucky, and I'm glad that the game did as well as it did, but I don't really know what more to take away from it than that I was lucky. I mean, obviously, I think the game is good, but I was surprised, I would say, at the degree to which the reception to the game has been positive. Steam reviews are at 95% positive right now, which is pretty crazy for as weird of a game as Taiji is. It's even higher than the score for The Witness on Steam. I think that's really just because The Witness is like it's like a more popular game, so more people have played it who are not hardcore puzzle game fans, or as selective as the audience, self-selective as the audience for Taiji has been. A lot of it is probably literally fans of The Witness that are coming and playing Taiji. But even at that, I thought that people would be more critical of the game for not being as good as The Witness. But people overall seem to like it, so I'm really glad that people like the game as much as they do. With all that said, I do think that there's still a pretty large untapped market for the game. If you just look at like SteamDB estimates of owners of The Witness versus owners of Taiji. Now, I can tell from looking at the owners of Taiji that it's not a very accurate measurement, but it's close enough that I would say that if I take the low end of that, then it's probably close enough to draw some conclusions about. And the low end for sales of The Witness is something like 500,000, and Taiji sold like 17,000, so that suggests that there's a market that may be up to 50 times bigger than the market for the game. Now, that's probably not 100% true, but let's say it's even like half that, or even a third of that. There's still a lot of people, a lot more people who might like the game if they knew about it, that probably just don't know about it. Now, I still don't know a great way to get more people to know about the game. I've sort of relied on word of mouth, and so I would continue to encourage you that if you liked the game and you have friends, and those friends seem like they might like the game too, then you should probably tell them about it if you haven't already. Word of mouth is kind of the best thing for a puzzle game, because stuff like trailers doesn't really work super well, because people don't know whether the puzzles are good. So what are the next steps for the game? As I've mentioned previously, I am now working at Lunark Studios full-time on their upcoming game, Project S, so that means that my time to work on Taiji is like extremely limited. Basically, it's just weekends, or if I have an odd day off and I feel froggy and like I want to work on it. Which for the most part I haven't, so apart from having done some bug fixes and some minor tweaks and improvements, I haven't really worked on the game much since we shipped the soundtrack. So that means that the Switch port is still basically unstarted, even though that's like one of the things that I really want to do is get the game out on Switch for people who don't have PCs to play it on. But that's a huge like question mark, because it's really just dependent on when I have the time and energy to put into that. As I mentioned, we did put out a soundtrack album, so I would really encourage people to listen to that if they haven't, if you like the music in the game. It is available for free to listen to on YouTube and Spotify, although I would highly encourage you, if you have a little bit of disposable income, to throw it Gregory's way, because the sales of the soundtrack go to him, and the sales of the soundtrack have not been great. I mean, I don't really know what the expectation should be for sales of a soundtrack, but I would say it's somewhere around a like 2% conversion rate compared to the sales of the game, which is pretty small. And it seems like mostly people buy it if they want to support the game more than what the baseline cost of the game is. So anyway, just consider that. If you didn't know about it especially, then maybe go pick it up. It's on Steam and itch and Bandcamp. So if you already bought the game on Steam, that's probably the easiest way to get it. But if you want more of your money to end up in our pockets, or really Gregory's pockets in the case of the soundtrack, then maybe pick it up on itch. Speaking of which, I wanted to take like a little aside to talk about the money, and specifically to talk about like how little of the money that people spend on your game ends up finally in your pocket when it's all said and done. Which is like not really a complaint. This is just like a bit of an opportunity to maybe educate people who are working on commercial games that they haven't released them yet, so that they kind of know what they're in for. So overall, Taiji grossed like $300,000. But then if you account for the returns and taxes and then Steam's cut, then it's like $180,000 after all that comes out. And then the budget of the game I had to pay back to Indie Fund plus interest, so then that brings the total down to $62,000, which then I had to pay taxes on that, income taxes, so that's another 25%, and so at the end I keep like 46,000. So that's like from 300,000 down to 46,000 that I actually keep. So that's just something to think about. That maybe you haven't, either as like somebody who plays games or as somebody who makes games, that like $300,000 in gross sales does not convert to $300,000 in your pocket, or even $100,000 in your pocket in all likelihood. I don't know, just a little bit of something that I thought was, I guess, interesting, but also horrifying at the same time. So that pretty much does it, I think. This video was probably a little rambly, but it's been a while, and I wanted to catch up on some things, and there's been some thoughts in my mind. There's still like more things that I wanted to talk about. There were like questions that people had that they wanted me to answer, but I don't want to like run this thing on too long, so I'm gonna cut it off here. So thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all in a future video. I do want to cover those questions, so I probably will do another video to try to do that. And maybe I'll just put it up at the same time as this. I don't know. We'll see. If it's there, then it's there. If it's not, then it's not. Bye.